Have you ever felt it? That deep, silent scream in your soul. The frustration of pouring your entire being into a relationship, of being the most understanding, loyal, and patient woman, only to be met with the soul-crushing realization that he still doesn't take you seriously. You know that painful feeling, being treated as a convenient option, a safe harbor he can always return to, but never the non-negotiable priority. It is a wound many women carry in secret, a slow poison to the feminine spirit. You try, you adapt, you silence your own needs to not be too intense, believing your goodness will be your crown, but instead of respect, you get indifference. Instead of commitment, you get ambiguity. And in the dead of night, you ask your soul, what am I doing wrong? Why isn't my love enough? I want you to take a deep breath, because the answer is not just going to free you, it's going to transform you. The problem isn't your capacity to love. The problem is the very frequency from which you are loving. You've been using a map designed to lead you to the exact place you're desperate to escape. Because there is a secret, a psychological truth so potent, rooted in the timeless wisdom of Carl Jung, that most men don't even grasp it consciously, yet they react to it with visceral, unavoidable force. There exists a single, unique feminine attitude, an internal posture so sovereign and real that when a woman truly embodies it, she doesn't just ask a man to take her seriously. She compels him to. It activates in his psyche the most primal of all fears, the fear of losing her. And it is that fear, not your pleading, that will finally force him to recognize your true, infinite worth. Before we dive into the keys that will dismantle the good girl lie and hand you back your power, I need you to make a commitment. Not to me, but to yourself. An incredible number of you who find power in these videos are not yet subscribed. If you are truly ready to command respect instead of begging for it, take your first definitive action right now. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because you cannot afford to miss the revelations we share here. Powerfully press the like button to anchor your intention to reclaim your worth. And I have a special request. Comment below with the city or country you're watching from. I want to see just how far these life-changing teachings of Carl Jung are traveling to empower women across the globe. This is not a video about manipulation. This is a manifesto for reclaiming your power and becoming a woman who is impossible not to respect. In the moments that follow, you will understand why constantly pleasing him is actually destroying his respect for you. I will reveal the power of emotional sovereignty, the attitude of a woman who needs no man's approval to validate her own soul. You will discover how your boundaries, not your requests, become the ultimate measure of your value in his eyes. We will unravel the psychological mechanism of loss, so you understand why he only begins to value you when he perceives that your universe does not revolve around him. And finally, I will give you a sacred ritual to begin this transformation today. Ready to stop being an option and become his priority? Let's begin. Ever since we were girls, we have been sold an idea, a mirage that has conditioned the way we love and relate. The myth of the good woman. We were taught that to be worthy of love, to be chosen, to keep a man by our side, we had to be kind, accommodating, patient, and above all, pleasing. We were programmed to believe that the path to a man's heart was paved with our yeses, with our ability to adapt, to not cause trouble, to be a refuge of peace and unconditional understanding. And many of us, in a genuine act of love, have embraced this role with almost religious devotion. We have been the girlfriend who never complains, the partner who supports dreams she doesn't even understand, the woman who cancels her plans to be available, the one who swallows her tears to avoid making a scene. We have played the part of the good woman to perfection, hoping that as a reward we would receive respect, devotion, and a place of honor in his life. But this is where the mirage is revealed in all its cruel reality. In most cases, the reward is not respect, it is comfort. It is not devotion, it is convenience. It is not a place of honor, it is a safe, predictable, and unfortunately, easily taken for granted place. Why does this happen? Why does an attitude that seems so noble and loving end up generating the opposite effect? The answer lies in the deep psychology of value and respect. Respect, on a fundamental level, is not born from complacency. It is born from integrity. A man, on an unconscious level, does not respect the woman who always pleases him. He respects the woman who pleases herself first. He does not value the one who never challenges him. He values the one who has standards so clear that they challenge him to be a better version of himself. Imagine the story of Elena. She had been with a man she adored for 2 years. She prided herself on being the perfect girlfriend. She never contradicted him, supported all his decisions even when she disagreed. And her favorite phrase was, "Whatever you want, my love." She lived to make him happy, believing that this total surrender was the ultimate proof of love. But little by little, she began to notice a change. He stopped consulting her on important matters. He made decisions that affected them both without including her, and her opinions, the few times she dared to give them, were met with a condescending smile. One day, she gathered the courage to confront him and asked why she felt he didn't respect her. His response was a dagger that nevertheless awakened her. "I love you. You are the kindest woman in the world. But you always agree with everything. Sometimes I feel like I don't need to ask you, because I already know you'll say yes." Elena realized in that instant that in her eagerness to be the good woman, she had erased herself from the equation. She had become so agreeable, so predictable, that she had lost her specific weight in the relationship. She had become an echo, not a voice. This is the trap of constant pleasing. When you never say no, your yes loses all its value. When you never express a disagreement, your agreement becomes irrelevant. When you never show your limits, he assumes you don't have them. It is not an act of malice on his part. It is a natural human reaction to the lack of a solid counterpart. Attraction and respect need polarity. They need two complete and individual entities that choose to meet. If you dissolve into him, if you become an extension of his desires and opinions, the polarity collapses. You cease to be the fascinating woman he met and become a convenient appendage of his life. And comfort, my dear soul, is the silent killer of respect and admiration. Therefore, the first step in cultivating that unique attitude that commands respect is to unlearn the myth of the good woman. It's not about becoming confrontational or disagreeable. It's about giving yourself permission to be real. It's about understanding that your value doesn't lie in how pleasing you are to him, but in how faithful you are to yourself. Your opinion matters. Your needs are valid. Your no is as sacred as your yes. When you begin to embody this truth, something in your energy changes. You stop vibrating as someone seeking approval and start vibrating as someone who already has it, her own. And now that we have dismantled the mirage that has kept you in a place of devaluation, we are ready to build the first pillar of the true attitude of power. In the next point, I will reveal the secret of emotional sovereignty, and you will understand why the woman who does not need a man's approval to validate her own feelings becomes a figure of incomprehensible power and attraction to him. Once you leave behind the mirage of the good woman, the next step in building this irresistible attitude is one of the most radical acts of power you can perform. Reclaim your emotional sovereignty. What does this mean? It means you stop seeking his permission, validation, or approval to feel what you feel. You become the one and only absolute authority over your own emotional landscape. Most women, without realizing it, have been trained to externalize their emotional thermometer. They feel a pang of anger, but before accepting it, they glance sideways to see if he approves, if he will get upset, if it's too much. They feel a wave of sadness, but they suppress it because they fear being seen as dramatic or needy. They feel a burst of joy for a personal achievement, but they downplay it so as not to seem arrogant or to not overshadow his ego. They live in a state of constant self-censorship, adjusting their emotional truth to fit the mold of what they think he wants or can handle. And this act of self-betrayal, my dear soul, is a massive leak of personal power. The woman who embodies emotional sovereignty operates from a completely different paradigm. She understands that her emotions are hers. They are valid for the simple fact of existing and do not require an external jury to be legitimate. If she feels angry because a boundary was crossed, she does not apologize for her anger. She expresses it with firm and serene clarity. If she feels sad, she gives herself space to experience her melancholy without asking for permission. If she feels euphoric, she celebrates her success without shrinking. She does not seek for him to understand her feelings. She already understands and honors them. Her attitude is not one of confrontation, but of non-negotiable authenticity. Her energetic message is clear. This is what I feel. This is my truth. You may agree or not, you may understand it or not, but you cannot invalidate it because it belongs to me. Imagine this scene. Laura is having dinner with her partner, and he makes a sarcastic comment about one of her dreams, minimizing it in front of their friends. In the past, Laura would have laughed uncomfortably, swallowed the pain so as not to ruin the evening. But the one who practices emotional sovereignty does not. She doesn't scream or make a scene. She simply looks at him fixedly. Her smile fades, and with a glacial calm she says, "That comment was unnecessary, and it didn't make me feel good. We'll talk about this later." And then she changes the subject. What just happened in that man's psyche? He just hit a wall. Not a wall of aggression, but a wall of self-respect. He just realized that she is not willing to sacrifice her dignity to maintain a false harmony. He has just seen a woman who owns her emotions and is not afraid to protect her inner space. And that vision, that demonstration of serene power, is 1,000 times more impactful and generates more respect than hours of discussion or tears. When a woman stops asking for permission to feel, a man on an unconscious level perceives her in a completely new way. He stops seeing her as an emotional child who needs to be managed or pleased and starts seeing her as an equal, as a force to be reckoned with. He realizes that his actions have emotional consequences on her, and that she is not willing to absorb them in silence. This, far from pushing him away, creates a magnetic tension. It forces him to be more conscious, more careful, more respectful. He realizes he is dealing with a woman who does not abandon herself, and that, for a man with a minimum of maturity, is profoundly attractive. What cannot be controlled begins to be admired, and what is admired begins to be feared to be lost. To begin cultivating this sovereignty, you must practice the art of self-validation. When you feel an uncomfortable emotion, instead of seeking external approval, stop and give yourself what you are looking for. If you are angry, tell yourself, "I have every right to feel this way. My anger is valid." If you are sad, allow yourself to cry and tell yourself, "It's okay not to be okay. I honor my sadness." This internal dialogue is the foundation for building an emotional core so solid that external opinions no longer have the power to destabilize you. If you are ready to stop asking for permission and start being the queen of your own emotional universe, I want you to seal this commitment right now. Go to the comments and write this decree of power. My emotions are mine. I don't need your approval to feel. By writing it, you declare your emotional independence and join a community of women who are reclaiming their sovereignty. Now that you have learned to be the authority of your own feelings, you are ready for the next pillar of this attitude, building your boundaries. In the next point, I will reveal how your limits, when they are clear and non-negotiable, become the most powerful demonstration of your value and the language that a man cannot help but respect. If emotional sovereignty is your internal declaration of independence, then boundaries are the external and visible manifestation of that sovereignty. They are the sacred frontier of your kingdom, the line that communicates to the world, and especially to a man, where his desires end and where your self-respect begins. And herein lies one of the most ignored truths in relationship dynamics. A man does not measure your value by the amount of love you give him, nor by the number of sacrifices you make for him. On a deep and instinctive level, he measures your value by the clarity and firmness of the boundaries you dare to set. Your boundaries are, in essence, the price you put on your peace, your time, and your energy. If you don't set any, the message you send is that your peace has no value, that your time is free, and that your energy is inexhaustible. And, unfortunately, in the economy of human relationships, what is free is rarely valued. Many women confuse setting boundaries with being conflictive or selfish. They believe that true love means having no boundaries, a total fusion where everything is allowed and everything is forgiven. Or worse, they confuse setting boundaries with making requests. They live in a cycle of asking him to change, begging him to respect her, pleading with him to value her time. Phrases like, "Could you please?" or "Could you let me know if you're going to be late?" become the soundtrack of their relationship. But requests, my dear soul, are born from a position of inferiority. They imply that the power is in his hands, that you depend on his goodwill for your needs to be met. A boundary, on the other hand, is not a request. It is a declaration of what you will do if one of your boundaries is crossed. It does not focus on controlling his behavior, it focuses on controlling yours. Let me give you an example that will change everything. Imagine he has a habit of canceling plans at the last minute. The woman who operates from the place of a request would say, "It really bothers me when you do this. Please try not to do it again." And then she would wait, hoping he would change. The woman who operates from a place of boundaries, the woman who embodies this unique attitude, does not plead. She establishes a boundary. The next time he cancels, she doesn't argue or complain. With calm and firmness, she says, "I understand something came up. I value my time very much. So for next time, if you can't confirm with certainty, I'd rather not make the plan. I will carry on with my evening." And most importantly, she follows through. If he is ambiguous again, she declines the invitation without anger. What did she just do? She has not asked him to change. She has shown him the consequence of his behavior. She has communicated through an action, not a plea, that access to her time and her presence has conditions. And that action resonates in the male psyche with the force of thunder. Setting a boundary is a silent act of power. It is saying no to an invitation that doesn't feel right to you, even if you fear his reaction. It is ending a call when he starts to raise his voice. It is leaving a place where you don't feel comfortable. It is ceasing to be emotionally available to someone who only seeks you out for convenience. Every time you set a boundary, you are sending a very powerful message to his unconscious, and more importantly, to your own. I value myself. My peace is non-negotiable. My energy is a precious resource. And a man, upon encountering these sacred boundaries, has two options. The immature man, the one who seeks control and submission, will feel frustrated and will probably walk away. And that, let me tell you, is a gift. It's the natural filter that protects you from connections that would only bring you suffering. But the conscious man, the high-value man, will feel something completely different. He will feel respect, he will feel admiration, and above all, he will feel a renewed attraction, because he will realize that he is not dealing with a child who seeks to be pleased, but with a woman who knows who she is and what she is not willing to tolerate. Your boundaries are not walls to keep love away. They are the walls that protect your inner empire. And only a worthy king will be attracted to a well-protected kingdom. Stop asking him to value you. Start showing him through your boundaries how much you value yourself, because your actions will always speak louder than your pleas. To seal this truth in your being, I want you to go to the comments and write this decree, this declaration of your new standard. My boundaries are not a request, they are the map of my self-respect. By writing it, you not only empower yourself, but you create a field of resonance for all the women in this community to remember the immense power that resides in their sacred boundaries. Now that you have learned to command respect through your boundaries, we are ready to understand the final mechanism that makes a man not only respect you, but fear losing you. In the next point, we will unveil the risk of loss, and you will understand why a man only recognizes the true value of a woman when he viscerally realizes that she could live without him. We have arrived at the psychological mechanism that acts as the master switch for long-term attraction and respect. It is the catalyst that transforms his comfort into urgency, his indifference into interest, and his certainty into a healthy fear of losing you. This mechanism is the risk of loss, and it is activated in a man not when you threaten to leave, not when you give him an ultimatum, but at the precise moment he perceives, in a deep and visceral way, a simple and terrifying truth. Your happiness, your fulfillment, and your world do not revolve around him. He realizes that if he were to disappear tomorrow, your life, though painful, would continue to be rich, vibrant, and full of purpose. And this perception, my dear soul, changes everything. From an evolutionary and psychological perspective, human beings are programmed to value more what we feel we might lose. What is constant, secure, and guaranteed is often taken for granted. It is the law of scarcity applied to the emotional field. As long as a man feels he has you in the palm of his hand, that you are a constant in his life, that your happiness depends on his attention, he will operate from a comfort zone. He may love you, yes, but he won't feel the need to make an effort, to invest, to win you over every day. Why would he? There is no risk. He has all the benefits of your presence without having to pay the price of commitment or constant effort. But the moment this certainty shatters, his entire system goes on alert. This unique attitude we have been building, emotional sovereignty, sacred boundaries, are not isolated acts. They are continuous demonstrations that you are the sun of your own universe. When he sees you pursuing your passions with a fire that does not depend on his applause, when he sees you enjoying your solitude as a luxury and not as a punishment, when he sees you surrounded by friends who nurture you, when he sees that your decisions are based on your values and not his desires, he begins to understand something on a very deep level. You are not a satellite orbiting around him. You are an entire planet with your own atmosphere, your own moons, and your own trajectory. And he, if he wants to be part of your orbit, must be a star that adds, not a black hole that subtracts. I remember the story of Marcos, a man who admitted that the woman who had marked him the most was one who never made him feel needed. Other women, he said, made me feel like the center of their universe. And at first it was flattering, but then it became a burden. I felt the pressure of having to make them happy all the time. But with her, it was different. She had her career, her hobbies, her social circle. Sometimes I wanted to see her, and she would tell me with complete naturalness, "I can't today. I have my painting night." She didn't say it to punish me. It was simply her truth. And every time she did that, instead of getting angry, I felt a pang of admiration and an irrational fear. The fear that her world was so complete that I wasn't actually that indispensable. And that fear was what made me want to be indispensable to her. It made me want to try harder, to propose better plans, to be the man she chose to have in her fascinating life, not the one she needed. The story of Marcos reveals the secret. The fear of losing you is not created with threats. It is created with inspiration. He does not fear losing the woman who tells him, "If you leave, I'll die." He fears losing the woman who shows him with her actions, "If you leave, I'll keep shining." And this attitude not only forces him to take you seriously, but it also frees him from the burden of being your only source of happiness, allowing the relationship to breathe, and for an attraction based on admiration, not dependence, to be born. He begins to see you not as someone he must take care of, but as someone he must win over every day. Therefore, the question you should be asking yourself is not, "How do I show him that I love him?" but "How do I show him that I love myself?" Stop worrying about being indispensable to him and focus on being indispensable to yourself. Fill your life with so much meaning, so much joy, and so much of your own passion that his presence becomes a wonderful addition, but never the requirement for your fulfillment. When you embody this energy, the risk of losing you becomes real in his mind, not because you fabricate it, but because it is the truth. And a man, facing the imminent risk of losing a high-value woman, is finally forced to step up and take her seriously, or step aside and watch her shine from a distance. In either case, you win. And now that you have mastered the psychology of value through risk, you are ready for the final step. In the next point, I will give you a practical daily ritual, a tool to start embodying this attitude of a sovereign queen from today, a method for you to stop being an option in anyone's life and become a non-negotiable priority in your own. We have broken down the psychology, we have unveiled the mechanisms, and we have understood the theory. But true transformation only happens when knowledge becomes flesh, when philosophy becomes a habit, That is why this last key is not a concept. It is a practice. It is a daily ritual that I am giving you so that you can start, from this very moment, to embody the unique attitude we have been talking about. It is not something you will do for a week to see if it works on him. It is a commitment you will make to yourself for the rest of your life. A method to rewire your nervous system, to rebuild your self-esteem, and to start vibrating with the unmistakable frequency of a woman who takes herself seriously. This ritual is called the Mirror Decree and the Sacred Agenda, and its purpose is simple: to stop being an option in the lives of others, to become the absolute priority in your own. Part 1. The Mirror Decree, the Morning Reprogramming. Every morning, before looking at your phone, before the noise of the outside world invades your space, go to a mirror. Look yourself directly in the eyes. Don't look for flaws. Don't judge yourself. Simply connect with the woman looking back at you. Take 3 deep breaths and then, with a clear and firm voice, even if it feels strange at first, say the following words out loud. I am the sovereign of my world. My feelings are valid. My limits are sacred. My peace is my priority. I do not beg for love, respect, or attention. I command them with my example. Today, I choose myself. Repeat this decree 3 times. Feel how each word vibrates in your chest. This seemingly simple act is a form of conscious hypnosis. You are interrupting decades of social programming that told you your value was outside, and you are installing a new operating system based on self-respect. By looking yourself in the eyes as you say it, you are creating a neurological anchor between your image and your power. Part 2. The Sacred Agenda, the Daily Action. After the decree, take your agenda, your calendar, or a simple sheet of paper. And before thinking about others, before checking your messages, you are going to do one thing. Schedule a sacred appointment with yourself for that day. It doesn't have to be something big. It can be 15 minutes to read in silence, 30 minutes to walk aimlessly, an hour for my dance class, 20 minutes to enjoy a coffee without interruptions, whatever it is. But once you write it in your agenda, that time becomes non-negotiable. It is as important as a meeting with your boss or a doctor's appointment. Why is this so powerful? Because you are training your brain through concrete action that your time with yourself is valuable and deserves to be protected. When you start practicing this ritual, something miraculous will happen. At first, it will be hard. You will feel selfish. But as you repeat it, day after day, you will notice a change. You will start making different decisions. When he calls you for a last-minute plan that interferes with your sacred appointment, you will find it easier to say calmly and without guilt, I would love to, but I have a commitment today. That commitment is you. And every time you honor that commitment, your self-esteem strengthens, your energy changes. You stop vibrating neediness and start vibrating fullness. And he and everyone around you will notice. They will perceive that your life has a center of gravity that is not him. And that perception, as we have already seen, is the seed of deep respect and the fear of losing you. This ritual was never for him to value you more. It was for you to value yourself so profoundly that his validation becomes a mere echo in the grand cathedral of your own self-worth. And that, my dear soul, is the paradox that will make him value you like never before. You are no longer the woman waiting by the phone. You are the architect of your own reality, a masterpiece of your own design. He can be an admirer of your work, a guest in your gallery, but he will never again be the architect. And so, we reach the conclusion of this sacred journey. But this was not the end. It was your awakening. You haven't just learned a trick. You have been handed the keys to a complete spiritual reconfiguration. Together, we have burned the dangerous mirage of the good woman to the ground, understanding that your kindness is a gift, not an obligation. You have reclaimed the throne of your emotional sovereignty, realizing your feelings need no external permission to be valid. You have built sacred boundaries of self-respect, understanding they are the truest measure of your worth. You have mastered the psychology of loss, making a man viscerally aware that your universe is vast and does not revolve around him. You are no longer playing the game of chasing a man's attention. You have ascended to a new league, becoming the woman whose very presence inspires a man to become worthy of her. The fear of losing you will only ignite in his eyes when he sees that you have utterly lost. The fear of being without him. This is the key. This is the power. And now, your journey continues. If these words have sparked a fire in your soul, then do not let it fade. This is your moment. An astonishing number of you who feel this connection are not yet part of this tribe. So, I ask you, commit to your own evolution. Hit the subscribe button and the notification bell now, because the secrets we unveil next will build upon this foundation, and you cannot afford to miss them. Give this video a like as a signal to the universe that you accept this new power. And for your final act of transformation today, I want you to go to the comments and declare your new reality for all to see. Don't just write a comment, cast a spell. Write this: I am the architect of my own universe. Write it, feel it, and know that from this moment on, you do not seek respect. You are respect in action. Thank you for trusting me on this journey. I will see you in the next awakening.